talks of peace in Damascus, but Israeli boots march deeper into Syria. Convoys roll through Quneitra and Dara'a even as Netanyahu hints at progress. Turkey pledges protection, Saudi pours in billions, and Syria's new rulers juggle promises and power. On the battlefield and at the table, the future of Syria hangs in the balance. Despite ongoing talks between Israel and Syria's ruling Hayat Tahrir al-Sham regime on what authorities have characterized as a security agreement, Israeli military forces have carried out a string of ground incursions in the country's southern provinces of Quneitra and Dara'a. Local media outlets reported that a convoy of Israeli military vehicles rolled into areas located between Jubbata al-Khashab and Khan Anaba towns in Quneitra province on September 20th and carried out searches there. The development came a day after an Israeli military convoy broke into Maharia village in the Yarmouk Basin area of Dara'a province and set up a temporary checkpoint on the eastern side of the village. They stopped passers-by for inspection. Another convoy was deployed on the road linking the villages of Kuwaya and Abdin. Additionally, an Israeli military convoy, consisting of 5 military vehicles, stormed the village of al-Samadaniya al-Sharqiyya. Eyewitnesses reported that the Israeli soldiers set up a checkpoint at the western entrance to the village, stopping several civilian vehicles and inspecting the identity cards of passengers. Earlier, Syria's Interim President Ahmad al-Sharaa said that security talks with Israel are a necessity and could lead to results in the coming days. He asserted that the US had not pressured Syria's ruling authorities to make a deal with Israel and was instead acting as a mediator. Meanwhile, Syria's defense ministry accused the YPG-dominated SDF terrorist group of attacking villages in eastern Aleppo countryside, while firmly rejecting claims that the Syrian army was behind the attack. In a statement carried by the Syrian Arab news agency, the ministry said SDF forces struck the villages of Tal Maz, Alsa and Al-Qayaria in eastern Aleppo countryside with mortar shells on September 20th.
During the bombardment of areas outside SDF control, Syrian army units observed rockets being launched from an SDF multiple rocket launcher toward Amtina village, which remains under SDF control.
The Syrian ministry added that the reasons behind the strike were unclear, also categorically denying reports by SDF-linked media accusing the Syrian army of shelling Amtina, blaming the SDF for the attack. It also accused the SDF of a pattern of targeting civilians in eastern Aleppo countryside, citing a September 10th attack on Al-Qayaria village that killed 2 civilians and injured 3 others. The ministry vowed to continue to carry out its national duty to defend Syrians and preserve their security and stability, and held the SDF fully responsible for what it described as a massacre committed against residents of Amtina village in an attempt to falsely blame the Syrian army. The SDF is dominated by the terrorist group YPG, the Syrian branch of the terrorist PKK. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said on September 21st that there has been progress on a security deal with Syria, but an agreement was not imminent. Speaking at the outset of a cabinet meeting, Netanyahu said victory against Hezbollah in Lebanon had opened up the possibility of peace with Israel's northern neighbors.
We are holding talks with the Syrians. There is some progress, but there was still a ways to go. In any case, these discussions, as well as the contacts with Lebanon, would not have been possible without our decisive victories on the Northern Front and others.
Meanwhile, Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan pledged Ankara's continued support for its neighbor Syria, as he is set to meet President al-Sharaa during his trip to the United Nations in New York.
On the occasion of the United Nations General Assembly, we will also have the opportunity to meet with them at the Turkish House in the United States. We will not leave Syria alone. We will use all available means to ensure that Syria grows stronger with each passing day.
Not only Turkey, but Saudi Arabia too is extending its support to Syria after the overthrow of Bashar al-Assad in December 2024. Analysts told AFP that Riyadh has showered the new leadership with millions of dollars in assistance and investment pledges in the hope of steering it further into the kingdom's sphere of influence.
Riyadh's main goals are keeping Syria within the Saudi camp and keeping the new Syria aligned on issues related to Lebanon, Hezbollah, and Iran.
In May, Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman convinced visiting US President Donald Trump to promise to lift Syria sanctions. He also arranged a landmark meeting with Trump for Syrian President Ahmad al-Sharaa, a former jihadist who spent 5 years in US custody in Iraq. The kingdom has deployed its vast oil wealth in pursuit of its goals. In July, Saudi Arabia signed investment and partnership deals with Syria valued at $6.4 billion to help with post-war reconstruction. In April, Saudi Arabia vowed, alongside Qatar, to settle $15 million in Syrian debt to the World Bank. It also pledged to rebuild schools, hospitals and bakeries, and remove rubble from Syrian cities, as well as provide 1.65 million barrels of crude oil for electricity generation. Saudi Arabia's soft power push comes as Qatar and Turkey, key supporters of Syria's new government, also vie for influence. Karim added that Riyadh wants to ensure that the influence of other Gulf states never overrides that of Saudi Arabia, and to balance out against Turkish influence. Saudi aid efforts have been praised by Emergencies and Disaster Management Minister Raed al-Saleh, who told AFP the projects strengthen Saudi Arabia's standing among Syrians.